I'm Ken Greene. We're at the Seed Library farm, our home. So I was working at a small town library just over the Shongum Ridge from here. It was a book library, a public library, and I was learning a lot about issues in terms of loss of genetic diversity, consolidation of seed resources, while my garden was sort of getting bigger every year. And so I started learning how to save seeds as sort of a way of feeling like I can actually do something about these problems myself. But that I didn't really feel like it was enough. So that's when I kind of was like, well, we have this great library system already in place, kind of a radically democratic institution, and it seemed like a good way of sharing seeds with other gardeners. So I added seeds to the library catalog. People could come in, check them out like a book, grow them in their garden, eat, pick flowers, whatever, as long as they saved some seeds from their plants to return to the library. And the goal was to make sure that either varieties with history in the region or varieties that are regionally adapted to the Northeast would sort of stay adapted and wouldn't disappear. And it just grew from there, and eventually Doug and I quit our jobs, and because none of us could afford land basically in this area, it's pretty expensive. So by pooling our resources, we were able to buy this place. And that first building, the boarding house, we fixed that up together, and we all lived there together for a couple of years while we were starting to figure out what we were going to do with the rest of the buildings. The cabin up there, Doug and I built that, and that's where we live now. The hotel and the mess hall are too far gone to save, but they're also too expensive to tear down and get rid of. So they're just kind of rotting for now. So this middle field here is actually, we're establishing it as orchard, mostly for ourselves and our friends and our community. We've put in about 35 fruit trees and grapes and currants and hardy kiwis and all kinds of stuff. And then this year, Erin, who you talked to and just met, she was actually a farmer before she started working with us. And so she's always itching to come out and grow. And so this middle space here, she's actually turning into a demonstration garden so that we can have workshops here and people can learn about gardening, but also learn how to integrate seed saving into the home garden and see it in an actual home garden setting rather than on the farm, which is a little bit different. And that's another reason we're doing the demonstration garden. It's also going to be sort of our trials area, because we want to be able to grow them, eat them, cook with them, and know like, yes, this does well here and we really love it before we commit space to seed production for it. So that's going to be sort of helpful, the prerequisite for figuring out what we're going to grow the following season for seed. The biggest challenge for us growing seeds here is about the humidity in the summer. It's a very wet, humid summer, and much of the seed industry is out in California and Oregon because they have these wonderfully long, dry, moderate seasons, which the seeds love. But for us, we feel like, well, the plants need to experience the diseases, the climate, the conditions here in order for them to be regionally adapted. So it's a challenge we want to take on, even though it's more expensive, more labor intensive, and more challenging to grow seeds here. Those plants will wind up being more appropriate and healthier and better varieties to grow in this region. The interesting thing is that seed stories are always changing. And even a seed that you might not think has a story because it's a commercial variety or it's been around a long time, all seeds have stories. It doesn't really matter to me how far back the story goes. It doesn't have to be like a 200-year-old amazing, tragic, romantic kind of saga. Sometimes it's just a story of someone saying, I grew this variety, here's why I did really well, here's how I used it, here's how I cooked with it, here are the things that I thought are important about this plant, why I think it's wonderful, and then passing it on to us. And that's a story I'm interested in, as well as sort of the bigger stories. I mean, the part of what makes it so amazing is that it's surrounded by woods. So it's very private and very quiet and peaceful. But I love it back here.